Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Game Junk Podcast, episode 199, recording on Sunday, July 7th, 2024. My name is Frank.
My name is Sean.
My name is Andrew.
And we took a week off. Huck was away and not a whole lot going on. So not much has happened since then either. So we're going to do a little juicing at the top of the show.
Sean, Frank, you must have been away too. You got a little sun. Look a little tanned.
Today, just from today.
Oh, really? Okay.
Baking at a baseball game. And then, so Sean wants to juice things up a bit. So we'll see where it goes, talking about the second golden age of PC gaming and all that entails. And then we'll pretty much be talking about what we've been playing over the past few weeks. So thanks for joining us. Still no official plans or anything big for 200, correct, gentlemen?
Correct, but you keep mentioning it like we have something secret behind our backs that we're trying to hide.
But maybe there'll be some divine inspiration. Like someone will leave a comment. If you want to leave a comment at youtube.com/gamejunk, if you have an idea for episode 200, no guarantees, but if the right idea strikes us, it could happen. So leave.
I wonder if there's a Guinness Book of World Records for longest running show with to hit a high number of episodes, because we've been doing this thing for I don't know what, quite a few years, 15, 10? I don't know, but we're only at episode 200.
More like
yikes.
15 at least.
15 at least,
Longest running podcast with the lowest number of episodes.
There we go. That's what we're looking for.
Okay. Yeah, maybe.
Or on the Discord, you can find that link in the YouTube listing as well. youtube.com/gamejunk. Okay. Sean, I don't know if I'm going to directly hand off to you, but you shared some articles with Huck and I earlier today. One was the future of games belongs to, that's the last one I should say. PC gaming is mainstream. Now what? From PC Gamer, from Polygon, you can't make AAA games for just one platform anymore, which is kind of inspired by PlayStation bringing a lot of their games to PC. And the future of gaming belongs to weird little games. And this push of a change in the landscape of gaming, or at least console games. So anything you want to add to that summary, Sean?
No, I mean, that's kind of the gist of it. I don't know. It just got my brain firing. It seemed kind of interesting. I don't know that it all totally connects and makes sense, but yeah, I feel like some changes are afoot. Obviously, we're starting to think about what the next generation of consoles are going to be. Xbox has kind of been talking about theirs a little bit. But then the question is, does anybody even want another generation of consoles? That's kind of what I'm feeling like some of the talk is about right now.
Well, I can certainly say I want another console generation. I'm ready and prepared. I can say I definitively have heard that. And obviously Nintendo throws a wrench into this whole mix. And are we almost at the point where we're excluding Nintendo from AAA in a way? Obviously their games have AAA budgets, but they almost feel like a separate entity. And that's kind of interesting. But I don't know what it means, to be honest. Huck, any initial thoughts from you?
Well, in terms of am I ready? I'm not ready for another console yet. I'm still catching up on PS5 stuff. I want one eventually. I don't want there to not be one, but I definitely don't want it yet. Switch 2 is obviously going to come out. It'll be interesting to see how far behind it is from Xbox Series X and PS5. And then we'll go from there, I guess. And, PCs are going to keep getting better. It's going to be hard to, on the same vein, I think it's going to be hard for console manufacturers to keep current and keep cutting edge compared to PC gaming, because graphics cards are now getting so good that a PC is going to be able to pretty much match a custom built console pretty soon after I imagine it comes out. So even if, Sony's working with Nvidia to make some new special chip, stuff to run in the PS6, I got to imagine PCs are going to have something similar able to happen pretty soon after. So,
and probably at a reasonable price, right? Like at least a comparable price.
Yeah. So I can't imagine that, consoles are going to, when this next console generation comes out, that it's going to be such a huge leap ahead that everyone has to have this console compared to the PC, which I think is kind of what Sean was getting at with these articles. Like PCs are becoming so powerful that they're not much difference from consoles.
The only anecdotal evidence I'll add to this is it was my friend's son's birthday today. Like he just turned 13 and he got a gaming laptop to play video games on. So like feels like more so than in the past, younger kids are wanting to get into PC gaming, probably because of streamers. I think is a big factor there, that they build PCs and don't play console stuff. If I'm actually thinking about it, I think that's the number one reason. And it's way easier to stream and be an influencer if you have a PC. So that I don't think any article mentioned that. I could be wrong, but that feels.
No, it was mentioned in one of them. And I think that's a huge factor. And I was going to bring up kind of the same anecdotal evidence. Like my son and his friends generally are playing Steam games or crappy little games on itch.io. They don't even know or care what the next big PlayStation game is. That's not even really on their radar.
They don't know about Cat Quest 3 coming out soon? Come on.
Only because I do and have mentioned it. But yeah, like I think there's that aspect of it. I think, in the past, PC gaming has been expensive. It has been, like there's always, you gotta be a tech guy to be able to build your PC. If something goes wrong, you don't know what's going wrong. But, the articles mention things like the Steam Deck have kind of started to change that a bit. Obviously, there's the Rogue Ally, is that what it's called? There's other competitors in that space as well.
Even the console cost, right? Like PlayStation is $700 approximately in Canada, and you can build a semi-reasonable or comparable PC for that price. Where when we were kids, a like Nintendo 64 just is what I know the price of. I think was $279 at launch. And a PC at that time would have been like $2,000. So like there was no comparison in terms of spending money if you just wanted to play games, where consoles are pretty pricey now.
And even for if you're not going to build your own, every website now has pre-built targeted towards gamers. It's not like when we were growing up where like you got your IBM 386 and like that was it. Like you didn't get anything towards gaming.
And if you didn't know anything about PCs, it was a nightmare. I still remember having to get my friend's dad to come over so that I can install PGA Tour 486 because I didn't know what virtual memory was. And I needed like to set my virtual memory through MS-DOS. And it's like, who would know any of this stuff? And now operating systems and Steam have made it so much more accessible. Even the golden in that article, the quote, first golden age of PC gaming, 93 to 99, I think is what they stated is. That makes sense to me. I had friends in high school that were really into PC games, stuff like Diablo, Ultima, the LucasArts games. And the difference there was those were only available on PC. And it was a niche kind of PC gaming, and I was curious about them. But I don't know, nothing really got me to the point where I have to play this game, that it's not my type of game. But even if I wanted to, I saw what it took and how many things go wrong and how much it was. And I had my own nightmarish experiences in the early 90s trying to do PC gaming. And I was just like, I don't even want to go there. It's terrible. So as someone who's recently built a PC, like in the last 4 years, it's a lot easier and stuff just works in a way that it never used to in the past. So, I mean, that is probably the number one factor to me. It's easy to do. And number two is streaming, I think. Not that
and even just building your own, if you don't know anything, you just go on YouTube and you say, how do I build a gaming computer? And then it walks you through visually how to do everything, how to connect everything, what to do, what not to do, what the pins mean, what CPUs could fit with what motherboards, blah, blah, blah. Like before, you're lucky if you could find like an article on like Tom's Hardware or something like that. That would point you in the right direction. So it's just so much more accessible, even for noobs out there of building machines.
PC part picker makes it even easier too, and as you mentioned before, like pre-builts and lots of different ways of buying those. There's just a ton of options, and laptops. Like laptops weren't really a thing. Like that's really an all-in-one solution without a monitor and like kind of a portable console at the same time. So I think and kids can use it for school. So I think like there's justification for getting high-end laptops, at least, that also they can use for games.
Yeah, for sure. And I think you look at the games that are popular now, like you've got your Minecrafts, your Fortnites, like these are all games that most people play on PC, particularly because you can mod them and stuff like that. And it just, like it just brings up the question like, okay, well, if you were going to buy a console, like what are the things that people would want to own a console for? And, as you already alluded to, Frank, like Sony's bringing a lot of their big games to PC now. And that was what one of the other articles was about, which is that it costs so much to make a AAA game now. They're not making enough money back just on their own console. They have to put it on other platforms in order to make back the money they spent. So,
yeah, I'm always a little cynical. I don't buy those numbers at all. I feel like they're breaking. I can't think of major games that didn't break even, and everything they've done on PC is just gravy. And other ones have done really well. So I'm always a little less like, oh, it's not feasible. I'm not so sure. Maybe when you factor in overall bottom lines with like failures and successes, that's one thing. But some games on their own, I think they know which games are going to make money, and I think they generally do make money. But I guess another factor to me is this is like a kind of general media content observation, but like the lack of taste that people have for things, like they will play anything, like something average is good enough for people. Like when I remember when we were young, and maybe like this is just us, I would read magazines and see what like critics were saying are the actual good games. I might not always agree, but I was like, I had, and I'm not saying this is good either, but like I kind of knew what people said were the good games versus the bad games. It's also like kind of a version of classitosis when I was a kid, right? And it influenced what I played, and I didn't always go along with it, but it was definitely an influence. Where now I don't think people care at all. Like just look at Gorilla Tag. As far as I know, it looks terrible. I don't think it plays particularly well. I've never played it. I could be wrong, but that game's huge, and it's just. It doesn't really matter. It just finds an audience somehow, and it's not the same. It's not the same landscape of critiques and like a culture of like what are the best things. People do not care about that stuff anymore.
Yeah, well, that's ironically, like you would think that the big thing with PC gaming is it's about the people who want the absolute cutting edge, and they want to play those big blockbuster games and have it look amazing, sound amazing. But I think the thing that's really pushing PC now is all these weird little indie games that streamers are playing, just weird meme games that catch on, that go viral. And, and the PC platform is just where these things exist, like they very rarely come to console. And that's what people want to play. Like it's,
I don't know. I think there's obviously some of that. And I think another big part of that, not big, but at least a part, is early access. Like that's only available on PC really. So like stuff that's new or that streamers are doing or trying stuff out.
Xbox has a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit, but like Hades 2 would be a big early access game, and there's another one, Pal World was on Xbox, but like just kind of stuff like that it's not finished, but they can make money, and it draws.
Well, it's huge for all those survival open world games.
Yeah. And maybe that's a big part of it. Those are way bigger on PC, especially free to play ones and other things. And I'm just out of touch. Like, I have no interest in those games, and they seem like kind of a chore to me. And I think a lot of people like them, and young people like them. So yeah, it's all this being said, I built a PC 4 years ago. I was like just doing my best to play PC all the time. And I've gravitated back to console. So maybe I'm just like old and unchangeable. I'll play stuff that's only on PC, but for the most part, I still like the comfort of my bed or couch and a big TV.
I got to look at this again, but like, I don't think this article mentions like the biggest thing is just that Steam is huge. Steam as a platform is huge. It makes gaming so accessible, so easy. Like, they give you so much stuff for free, the cloud saves, the like sharing across computers, sales, like everything is so accessible through Steam, and it just makes it so easy having your whole library in one place where it's just so easy to like, as you build your library, why would you want to, fragment it into a whole bunch of different consoles? And like right now, I got to keep a list like where the hell all my games are, because who knows? Like, did I already buy this? Like, I know Frank buys it like 100 times on everything, but like that's not me. I want to buy it one time.
There's an app, I think it's called Play Night, NITE, and I haven't downloaded it yet, but supposedly it's a way to track all of your digital libraries of games. Like, you add all your services, and
that'd be pretty handy.
So,
but I mean, also the one thing, I don't know if it mentions either, but so obviously the rise of Unity forcing Epic to go free. I think one of the article mentions this, that like it has opened the floodgates of people that can make games, and that in turn kind of caused Steam to lower their entry, and all the other consoles too, so that you now have this flood of people making games on PC. I think the last time I checked, like 10,000 games released on Steam a day or something insane like that. Like, that is
if you're like an insane indie solo developer or small team, you're definitely launching first on Steam and maybe going to console later. Yeah,
and it just makes sense from a financial aspect. Like, you launch on one, see how it does. Why would you sink all the money into launching multi-platform if you don't even know if your game's going to be a hit? Like, you don't have money to do tons of marketing and tons of play testing. So, you're kind of taking a shot in the dark. Like, you might have family and friends builds, but you're not like testing blind, like large markets or anything like that when you're a small indie. So there's just like so much more content. The odds of finding one of these like hit little games that these articles are talking about is so much bigger now than it ever was. Like, in the heyday, the golden age of like, 20, whatever it was, 93 to 99, like there was probably only 50 games released that whole year. So like, you're desperate for something to play, and now you're desperate to find something good to play. So once something latches on, if you have like 10,000 games coming out a day, someone's going to have a good idea out there. And, the cost is now $100, whereas before it was like, $1 million to license Unreal. And then, whatever hoops you had to jump through to get onto a platform. Even Steam used to have a hard barrier of entry that it wasn't as easy to get on Steam before. So it's all very much more accessible now in many ways. And I think that's helping just find tons of new games and tons of new ideas, which is probably why PC is so popular as well. There's just so much to play. And I mean, you can't find anything if you wanted to, but
I buy the small little games thing, or weird little games, a little less. Small little games, weird little games, because I do think they're more popular than they've ever been. And like, Steam is allowing that to happen, but I think it's pretty niche still. And I would be surprised if like any of the sales numbers for something other than like Among Us were that big. Like I think Balatro is one of the best games of the year, but I don't think it's necessarily selling all that well. I know streamers are playing it.
Yeah, I don't know if that article had sales numbers for some of them. I'd be curious
Like
to find
Helldivers
out.
2 is one of the biggest selling games, I think the biggest selling game of the year, but it's published by PlayStation Studios. It's still a AAA game.
Yeah, and I mean the thing with that one that they keep bringing up is that the Steam numbers seem to be bigger than the PS5 numbers, which maybe isn't that surprising. But
I think console developers are realizing that there's people who will just play PC, and you're never going to get them anyway. Maybe Nintendo will. People will buy a PC and a Nintendo system for their exclusive games, but they're like, well, if we have an exclusivity window, that's fine, but we get some initial sales, but we're never going to change these people's minds, so we might as well make money from them.
yeah, so I mean, it's a question of like the next console generation. Do people buy these new consoles? Like, I don't know. I think our generation is still kind of stuck on consoles. I am with you, Frank. I still kind of like to just sit on my couch, and that's my preferred way to play. But that might be less and less, and the younger generation is going to be stuck to PC.
It might be, but I don't think it matters. Like, I know the big story when we were younger, or especially like early 2000s, they're losing money on this console. Every time you buy a console, they lose money. I don't think that's the case anymore. I think the prices are very high on these consoles, and I think they make money on consoles for the most part. And by the end of the console's life cycle, as they refine the technology, they're definitely making money on them. So I don't think they care about that. If it leads to software sales, that's good. If it doesn't, then they'll sell them on PC anyway. So I don't think it matters, and they'd be dumb not to launch consoles.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's the question. Like, if they don't sell, are we looking at like a PC only future or like a PC and Nintendo only future? It's possible.
I think people are just ingrained in brands so much now that there's enough people who will buy the next PlayStation console or the next Xbox console no matter what. Like that's their team, that's what they're into, or people just buy everything like us, and they'll always have enough to break even on consoles. Maybe one day that will happen. A new console will not emerge. That I could definitely, like, I don't think there's any chance that will happen. Or like the days of Sega trying to
I don't know, man.
Unless it's NVIDIA or like
Nico,
AMD.
Yeah, maybe if
Is that still
NVIDIA
happening?
did like a console-ish PC, or Steam partnered with Steam to do that. I mean, it would just be like another name for a PC to me, but that could happen. But I don't think there would be anything. Well, I guess there are PC exclusives, but it's not the same thing. Like published by Steam, maybe like Half-Life 3 will launch exclusive to Steam, and they'll do a console at the same time. But that's the only scenario I could see that happening.
Well, I'm going to make a bold prediction about the like cost of AAA games. So like the big thing was like they're too expensive to make, but I think we're kind of in this weird situation where the cost is going up because of the amount of people needed to make all this content. But also, I think AAA studios also keep their teams so big because they try to put out the games quickly. And the only way to put out a game quickly is to throw an absolute insane amount of bodies at it. So if you were to lengthen out, like the one article talks about this, like Nintendo, they take longer, smaller teams, and they like refine the core mechanics with a smaller team and then ship the game in 5 years instead of 2. And I think that is the approach that AAA games need to take, even if it's like running multiple teams to create, like kind of Assassin's Creed style and even Call of Duty style, right? They have 3 teams rolling Call of Duty, and I mean, they still use an absolutely insane amount of people, but I think that's the way it's going to have to go. You're going to have to extend your timelines, lower your head count, have just outsource certain areas of your game, art, outsource QA, so that you only have that cost when you need it. It's not a year-round cost that you need when you're in pre-production. You don't need crazy art team when you're in pre-production. You don't need a big QA team when you're in pre-production. So doing like having that cost, that overhead, unless you're a big studio with multiple game projects where that QA team services all of them, it doesn't make sense to keep those people on. And which is why you're seeing layoffs too. I think people are realizing that. That's why there's been so many layoffs this year. And the other thing,
I just want to say my counter to that, but also in agreement, not necessarily that these games are going to, they take so many people to make, but in coordination with the layoffs thing, like stuff, Epic's clearly going to like a procedural and generated content and asset store model where anyone can make things with MetaHuman and other things. And let's like AI is going to do all of this stuff. So
yeah, that was going to be my next thing. Like
they're going to get smaller.
Even just Epic just released their animation sample for Unreal Engine 5.2, 5.4, and it has like 500 AAA quality animations. And animations right now are a huge cost in games. So you just give this stuff for free, like even that Mixamo stuff, like animation libraries and things like that are being put online are huge. MetaHuman, being able to create characters with no character artists is insane. The fact that that even exists is crazy, and that they look so good. And, just the tech that Epic is providing, and to a lesser extent Unity, is going to reduce costs. People are taking on Unreal Engine 5 because it has so much power. Like the nanite stuff, the Lumen, being able to like real-time light your game at minimal cost is crazy that you can do that as well. There's just so many amazing things that allow you to develop a game, and so many tools that are essentially for free. Like 5% to Epic once you launch is nothing. It's peanuts. Like look at all the tech you get for free, basically. I'd gladly pay 5% to have Unreal Engine 5.
Yeah, I mean, I think like, it comes back to like the scale of these games, and like they're trying to do everything, right? To be a big AAA game, you got to have like a million different systems. You got to have online. You got to have like all these things. And it's like, why aren't more AAA games just like a smaller focused experience? But they always got to be like 80 hours. And like, I don't know, like those are some of the things that I think need to probably change, but I don't know if they will. But
it feels like it is though. Like there's not that many 80-hour monster games that come out. Like Elden Ring, obviously huge, but like,
I mean, 80 hours maybe is, like that's the extreme end of it. But even like, your God of War games and stuff like that, like they can't just be 12 hours. Like,
yeah, they are in the 20 to 30.
The days of like Beyond Good and Evil and games like that, like it was normal just to be a 10, 12-hour game. I don't know if that really cuts it for AAA these days.
Yeah. I mean, you can see that with The Last of Us Part 2. Like, it almost looks like they wanted to pad it out.
Yeah.
That last
detriment to the game.
Yeah, that last kind of chapter.
Yeah.
Did we miss this? What else? Did we miss anything?
The last point I wanted to make just with all this discussion, it's just interesting. I think a lot of people are talking about this year specifically because it feels like a year where AAA games are kind of far and few between, and we are getting a lot of these indie games coming out of nowhere and kind of being little surprise hits. I don't know if that's like the indication of where things are going, or if that's just happens to be this year, and next year there's going to be tons of AAA stuff again. I don't know, but I think that's part of why this discussion is kind of happening.
Well, I think did you find any stats on the amount of AAA games released like this year versus previous years? And also, like, are people forgetting about COVID? COVID would have decimated AAA studios for months while they tried to get everyone online and working in a remote environment. Like, just think of how much production you would have lost having to remote connect to a computer in your office so that you could then remote to a dev kit. Like double hop to a dev kit, slow as hell. Like you would never get any work done. It would take forever to do anything.
I think 2021, 2022 were definitely a bit slower because of that. 2023, obviously, there was lots of stuff. it might just be a cycle thing. I don't really know, but I don't have numbers to really
Yeah.
back up any of this.
It would be
It's just
interesting
a
to see
feel.
that though. Yeah.
The only last thing I'll add is like with AAA studios, just anecdotally from what I've heard that from people that work at some of them, I think they're okay. I know there's layoffs and stuff, but like it sounds like sometimes people aren't that busy there. It's not like it's like when we used to work like grinding super hardcore. It's a little more lax and definitely more downtime for people, which I'm kind of surprised. Like I thought it might be the opposite. So I don't know how much of this
Well,
actually want, like, I know we've talked about this before, but layoffs, like, do they actually secretly want some of these layoffs? And like, it's like, how much of that is actually going on?
I think also part of it with like the downtime is like, I don't think you can grind people
Yeah, that's
to the bone like they used to. Like, we used to work at St. Catharines. Like if they grind us to the bone and you got pissed off, where were you going to go? You weren't going to go anywhere. That's why. Like there was nowhere to go unless you worked in one of the big hubs, LA, San Fran, Vancouver, Montreal. Like even at the time, Toronto wasn't really big. There was nothing really in Toronto. So, they've got you by the balls essentially. And, do you want to work in games or you don't want to work in games? Like is kind of the mentality I think a lot of these games used to have, or a lot of these companies used to have. And I don't think they can do that anymore, especially for remote work. Like it's so easy now. If I were to get laid off or, fired for slacking off, which would never happen, obviously. But like, I could just be like, okay, I'll go apply to 1,000 other companies that I could work remotely at. And someone's going to have a job. Like I'm lucky now, like I've got enough years under my belt. People are be throwing themselves at me, but like it's really hard for juniors right now because so many seniors can go wherever they want, and even intermediates. Like juniors are going to have such a hard time getting jobs because it's also, how do you train a junior remotely? It's pretty hard. And how do you get them climatized to a culture and learn how to work in this like remote environment? It's tough. So yeah, shout out to all the junior people who are struggling right now, because I'm sure there's a lot.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think we veered off into general gaming industry. The PC Golden Age discussion has come to a close.
Yeah, it was nice to have an old school hot button there.
Yeah.
So.
Felt like a warm button, but it went better than I thought. I like just talking about everything in general, but that's fine. I liked it. Okay, let's
get bored. We're off for 2 weeks or a week. Come on.
Yeah, I know. Hey, I got lots I played. So, well, maybe not. I played a lot, maybe not that many things. So, who wants to go first?
Well, why don't you go then, Mr.
Okay, I'll quickly start.
Played a lot.
I finally finished and platinumed Another Crab's Treasure. And I stand by my previous statements. It feels like about a 7.5 to me. Like really enjoyed it for the most part. Definitely some frustrating aspects that I feel go beyond just, it's a Souls-like. They're supposed to be hard, but still worth checking out, especially if you like Souls-likes. And yeah, pretty good game. Could be better. I think another 6 months of polish, and we're looking at like an 8.5 easy. I think there's a lot of easy improvements to this game.
Nice.
And a lot of Helldivers. I'll just put those two together. Like still went hard for 1 week on the new content, and some of the new planets, like the like swamp forest planet. Oh my God, it's amazing. This game is so good. It looks so good.
Okay, well, I mean, that sounds intriguing. Huck, do you want to talk Botany Manor?
Sure, yeah, let's do it.
So this is like a little puzzle game that I think it was on Game. Well, I played it on Game Pass. I don't know what other. I assume it's on PC. Not sure what other platforms, but I had seen some pretty good reviews about it, and I had tried it out and was kind of like, yeah, it's not bad, but it didn't like fully hook me. And then Huck was kind of mentioning that he was playing it. I was like, I'll give it another chance, and then just kind of ended up beating it. Like it's a pretty short game, like maybe 3-4 hours. But it, the idea is you're kind of exploring this house, and you are all the puzzles kind of revolve around flowers and plants. And so each area, there's like a couple different plants. You kind of are going around gathering clues about how to make this specific seed grow. And, there could be like climate things that need to be done, or like things you need to put in the soil. Like, I don't know, there's all these different things, and there's usually a little twist to it as well. And, it's basically just that. Like there's little bits and pieces of notes and letters and journal entries that you're kind of finding out along the way about the story of the main character, which is kind of that she's been studying botany, but kind of being rejected by the I don't know what would be
botanist
the word.
community.
The botanist community, which is very male dominated. I guess I'm not sure exactly when it's supposed to take place, but so that's kind of interesting. But it's just sort of a little kind of underlying story. It's not really super in your face. And yeah, it was pretty good. I mean, I didn't blow me away, but kind of once I got back into it, I thought it was pretty solid.
Yeah,
I didn't. You guys have talked about this before. Based on just the title, I thought it was like another sim game, cozy sim, where you.
No, I was very
puzzle game. I didn't know that. I'm looking at it now.
Yeah, I was confused because there is Manor Lords or something Manor. There is another game that just came out recently, and I kept getting them mixed up as well.
And it definitely has it looks a lot like The Witness.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, similar style for sure. It's also on Switch, apparently. Xbox and Switch right now. But and Steam. I didn't beat it yet. I played it a couple weeks ago, made it probably about halfway through, and was hoping to get through it, but I didn't get back to it. And I think they do the clues really well, and the puzzles, I guess. And what I like about it is they box in the location of the clues, so you know that everything you need is within this certain area. It's not, I need to backtrack to the other side of the house to find whatever clue I need. Everything is within a pretty reasonably sized area, and it's accessible. My one maybe nitpick with it is when you find a clue, it kind of goes into your notebook, and it says like, you found this sheet of paper or whatever, but you can't actually read what it said unless you go back to the actual note and reread it. So if you forgot that it needed to be at 55 Fahrenheit or something like that, the only way to go back is to actually find where it said that you need to be 55 Fahrenheit, find that note, click on it again, reread it, which, okay, like the areas are small, but I did find it. I should maybe have written this down in my notebook, perhaps, like not just kind of written down the title of the page I found. But the plus is it does tell you where that note is. So there is a little bit of help to backtrack and find it. But still, it was a little annoying in that regard, because there are some times where the order of things is important and it's based on one clue sheet. But yeah, I really liked that the puzzle areas were limited in scope, and I thought the notebook was pretty good in terms of how it tracked everything. And yeah, it looks good. It plays fine. It's nothing special, but it's just a well done little puzzle game. And I think if you're in any kind of puzzle games, I think this is a great one, especially if a Game Pass. It's a good game to grab.
Yeah, it does have a little feel of like Case of the Golden Idol as well, where it's like you kind of have all these clues, you kind of go around the environment, you find all these things, and then you have to figure out which ones apply to each plant. And then once you've filled those out, then it's like, okay, you got it right. Now move on and actually do that.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think the clues are subtle enough that when you put it together, you feel like, oh yeah, that's cool. I figured that out, because it's usually like some sort of little subtle poster on the wall or something like that. And it's really in the environment, it just appears to be some random thing, but you get to kind of put clues together and realize that, oh yeah, this actually has the information I need, which I think it is done pretty well because I never really got stuck in the amount I played, which was nice.
Yeah, there was one thing towards the end that I was stuck on. I kind of knew what I was looking for, but I couldn't figure out where it was.
The biggest thing I got stuck on was actually in the first puzzle room, where you have to like set the heat appropriately and put the plant down. And so I set the heat, but then I didn't realize you had to put the plant on the little like planter base. So I was putting it like just like beside it, and like nothing was. I was like putting it just by the vent, not on the actual planter thing. And that screwed me up for a good 10 minutes or something. While I was like, "What the hell do I have to do here?"
It really should. Yeah, it's kind of annoying. You do have to look for those stands to actually put the pot in.
Yeah. Yeah. Subtle complaint.
Yeah. Frank?
Next up, this is going back a couple weeks. Ubisoft launched Beyond Good and Evil 20th Anniversary Edition just after their showcase, I think, and showed up on all stores shortly after that. I was like, I know I loved Beyond Good and Evil when I played it originally. I think it got released on Xbox Live at some point on the arcade.
Yeah, there's an HD version.
And I bought it, and for whatever reason, I didn't enjoy it. I don't remember why, or even that I didn't enjoy it. I just did not play it for more than an hour. I was like, okay, scratch that itch. I'm good. But I was like, I'm going to try it again. And this time replaying this game, it was exactly what the doctor ordered. It's small and a compelling open world with a lot of variety. It's an old game, but it plays very cinematically. It made me miss placed cameras and games with placed cameras. It made me want to play an old God of War game, like just the interesting stuff they can do. And like the story's simple. The character models hold up completely. Like they're stylized. I love photographing the different creatures. Some of the puzzles with those creatures are annoying. And the combat is the only thing that feels really dated. It's very button mashy and not all that great, but that's what I like about the game. There's so much variety. There's stealth, combat, exploration, puzzles, I did everything this time, and there's side quests and content that I didn't know existed in the previous games, and I had a lot of fun doing that stuff. I just, it's not perfect. There are old game issues here that get annoying at times, but for the most part, it felt like such a breath of fresh air compared to other games, kind of the same way it did back then. And I loved playing through it again. I kind of stuck with it over a few days until it was done, and it hooked me in a way a lot of recent games haven't, like especially story-based games. Just again, the variety and scale is perfect. This is exactly the type of game I love playing.
Yeah, I played a little bit of it as well. I actually fired up because I had the HD version of it. So I fired that up, and then I kind of wanted to see how it would compare. And it's kind of crazy how much, like, it feels like the same game, the 20th Anniversary Edition, but it's crazy how much better it looks, like how they actually managed to make those models look really good, I think. And like even the environments and stuff, like it's pretty impressive. So
did the models actually change or just get like, I think it's just high-res textures, isn't it?
I don't know. Like, I feel like there's a little more polish on there. I don't know exactly what they did, but I mean, it's because like on the HD version, like you can barely see, like there's really no detail in the faces and like it's, I don't know. It's a pretty big jump. Like I kind of thought, like how much better could it look? But it's pretty good. And yeah, I agree. Like some of the controls are a little bit wonky. There actually was something they fixed, I think, because like when I was running around in the HD version, one of the first sort of like indoor areas, it was fixed camera, and it was just like everywhere I moved, I was like the controls were flipping on me and stuff, and it was really bad. But they tweaked it a bit in the new version so that it wasn't a problem. So
Yeah, there's definitely improvements to the textures and shaders, and every material shader and texture was redone or revisited in some way, from what I can tell in this article anyway, Eurogamer.net. So I don't know. If you remember kind of liking this game, or you miss kind of old school games and you never played this game, definitely worth a poke.
yeah, I never finished it back in the day, so I'm going to try and finish it. But yeah, it's a pretty solid action adventure. It's got kind of a little bit of a spy kind of vibe. It's got a camera mechanic that's pretty fun.
That is not cumbersome. Like when I think replaying Metroid Prime and having to switch to scan things, it was so annoying. This, it's like quickly go to R or L1, take a photo, and then other things get integrated into that aiming mechanic, and it just like you can either take a picture or shoot things with the same thing, and it's really good. Was this designed by Michel Ancel? Is that correct?
It sounds, I think so, but I don't know. Like, so what's going on with part 2? Because
okay. So I didn't look into this after, but in the side content, you find out about all these characters from like the home planet or where your Jade comes from. And I believe some of those characters are the ones from that like trailer that I didn't like, where they were swearing all the time. Right. And they are connected to the original game. And it's almost like maybe they thought the original game was a little too like well known and precious to like focus on characters people really didn't know, but were part of the first game. But I thought that was kind of interesting that I didn't know that, or I'd forgotten it. The director, is Michel Ancel. What has he done anything like? Well, Rayman Origins and Rayman Legends, which I love, and he hasn't done anything except apparently work on Beyond Good and Evil 2 and Wild. Like this is, I gotta go back. He designed Peter Jackson's King Kong, which was like surprisingly good for a licensed game, I remember. So I don't know. I want to play another game by this guy. It's been like almost a decade.
Well, yeah. So when did that trailer come out for Beyond Good and Evil 2? That was like 2005 or 6?
No. Way later.
No? Oh, okay. Like I feel like it's been a long
2017.
time. What? Really? I thought it was even earlier than that, but
there was initial ones in 2008 and 2009, but the one I was talking about, I'm pretty sure was 2017.
Okay. But yeah, I mean,
2018 was that cinematic trailer that I was talking about.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, it's just, I don't know. I mean, I hope that game is still happening. I hope we'll get to see it one day.
One other thing, there was a side game called that I didn't know existed called Yo Pearl. There's a trophy for it, and it's basically like Embers of Miriam. It's a left and right kind of puzzle stick game. I wish I would have played it. There was a couple of good ideas I could have stole. If
nice.
I was kind of like, oh, I wish I would have known about that. I would have stolen that idea. Not exactly, but like a version of it that could have worked. And it was pretty fun. Great game. What a good game.
So interesting too. I see that he has a special thanks on Psychonauts 2. I mean, I don't know what that's for specifically, but as I was playing this, that was the thing I had in my head of like, oh, it'd be interesting if they did this kind of remaster for Psychonauts. I looked it up. Apparently there's rumors, but I have no idea if it's actually
this kind of remaster. Like they didn't change any gameplay, and this game holds up. I've tried playing Psychonauts. It does not hold up.
Well, that might be a fair point, but
there are like HD versions.
Maybe with some tweaks, but I would like to see those visuals in the original Psychonauts.
I would like to see Michel Ancel work on Psychonauts and make it better.
Could be cool too.
So yeah, this was a very pleasant surprise.
I can go next. Speaking of story-based games, I've been playing Banishers: Ghosts of New Eden, which I'm really enjoying actually. So I took out the full game in the old library, and yeah, it is right. This is a Huck game supreme. This one, it's story based, pretty linear so far, but it's starting to open up. And story based action RPG with, I haven't got to any like major leveling things with stats that I've noticed, but there's like a skill tree. You can choose how to, adjust your character. There's no sort of like, from what I can tell, there's no like increase your hit points directly with what level you're at kind of thing. It's just based on the skill tree you choose. The characters are really well done, like the acting and the facial capture and just the pacing of how they tell the story so far, and how they how they tell the story, how they split up the cutscenes versus dialogue versus action is really well done right now. Everything's very well designed, level design wise. You walk into like a place and it's like, oh, you need to find the clues or whatever. And the way the levels are laid out, very obvious, oh, I got to go down these two paths to find it, obviously. And I like that. I don't like hunting around forever to find something. So I'm maybe 3 hours in at this point. I think the game's quite long though, 20 to 30 hours I saw. And it's really good. I'm really liking it. The combat there's like parrying and stuff, which I haven't really gotten into yet, but there's like kind of light and heavy attacks, and I think there's going to be more stuff added on as I play. But I'm really liking it. There's a block, parry, and I think that's it. I think that's all the mechanics I've kind of gotten into so far. But yeah, if you like, I wouldn't say it's like an Uncharted game, but similar storytelling style to that, and the characters are really well done. There's interesting characters, interesting things that have happened. So there's like a lot of potential here for this game to be up there this year for me, anyways. So I'm powering through for sure on this one.
I'm glad you mentioned Uncharted, because that was what I forgot. That game feels like it was influenced by Beyond Good and Evil. Like
which one? Uncharted or Banishers?
Because like it mixes in like kind of chase sequences, like really cool chase sequences that remind me of Uncharted, which they could have borrowed a little bit from Crash Bandicoot. So little like parlaying of ideas there, but it felt like a precursor to what Naughty Dog did with Uncharted to me, and the storytelling too. Like even the Jade and is it Paige has a bit of a Sully Nathan vibe, and it's the closest thing I can think of.
Yeah, that's true. So I finished Tales of Kenzera Zhao. I mean, you finished this a while back, Frank. I was really enjoying it initially, and then kind of kept going back to it because I was like, oh, I like this game. I want to finish it. And then towards the end, it did become a little bit of a grind for me. I think it was a lot of I'm not a big fan of the like locked room with setup of enemies, and then you kill those enemies and then more just respawn right afterwards. Like I know Guacamelee does that, but I think I just enjoyed the combat in Guacamelee a little more. But it did feel like they were borrowing a lot specifically from Guacamelee and Ori. A lot of ideas, but it's good. It's solid Metroidvania. I did like the story and the voice acting and all that stuff. I do wish like it's a little more linear than I was hoping for as well. Like, you do go off and there's like optional sort of power-up things you can find along the way, but it's pretty obvious you hit a branching path and you're like, okay, well, this is the way for the main story. So I guess this is the way to go for the power-up. And but yeah, it's still worth checking out, I would say.
Yeah, I agree. The weakest part of the game is the like repetitive combat rooms, but I still think it's a pretty good Metroid-like.
Mm-hmm.
The bosses are actually pretty impressive. I find
the bosses were fun.
Is it my turn?
Yep.
Okay, last one for me. I was like, what am I going to play next after Beyond Good and Evil? I'm kind of in my summertime, lots of free time, and just playing Beyond Good and Evil, an older game, there's something refreshing about them when they're good. And I was like, you know what? I was going to play Red Dead 2 next. And I remembered there was a remaster for Red Dead 1. I'm like, maybe I'll go back to Red Dead 1 before I play Red Dead 2. So I'm so sick of it, I don't play Red Dead 2. But I'm like, I got a lot of time this summer. Maybe I can make them both happen. And this was after Horizon, an American Saga Chapter 1. And that did not scratch my Western itch. So I went to Red Dead. And I am really liking or loving replaying Red Dead 1. I forgot it feels big, but it's actually a pretty small open world. And like the amount of missions and side missions, it's not too overwhelming. And there's actually a lot of variety in them between the stranger missions and like random tasks and jobs. There's a lot of variety. And the thing I get sick of is every main mission, for the most part, is following someone on horseback and then shooting a bunch of people. But shooting people is fun, as I've said many times. And you get towards halfway through the game, they let you skip more of the journey on like stage coaches and stuff like that. And there's always some interesting hook or new idea, whether it's introducing draws, like Gatling guns, cannons. There's some wrinkle that makes the missions a bit more interesting. So I've been kind of plowing through that game and really liking it. So I remember the remaster, people saying for some reason that it was underwhelming or they didn't like it, but plays pretty much like the first one to me. Looks good, still holds up visually. Like the landscapes and vistas for a Western, they still hold up. So I feel when I go from this into Red Dead 2, like the graphical upgrade is going to like blow my mind. If I was already enjoying Red Dead 1, it's going to be fantastic. So, yeah, Red Dead. It might actually happen. Red Dead 2 might happen this summer.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, I'm curious if you're going to do like Undead Nightmare. Was there another DLC for that as well, or no? Was that
just
the only
weapons, I think, and some stuff for online, but that's all included in this remastered version. So as of right now, the plan is to do Undead, but I'm not committing at this point.
Okay.
I looked up that I did 100%. I was like, am I going to 100% this? How much time is going to take? But I did 100% it on Xbox 360. So I don't think it's that bad. But no promises.
It's interesting you say that because I've got one Xbox game on my shelf that I've been dying to put in, and it's Red Dead 2. And I'm always so intimidated to go back to it because I'm like, I know nothing about this game anymore. And I'm going to have to probably restart it and lose all my progress. But I saw it just came to PS5, whatever the premium thing is called, really? PS Plus Premium, whatever. Yeah, so I'm like, maybe I'll just start it on PS5 and go trophy style instead of gamer score. And then restarting is kind of worth it.
Lots of missables in Red Dead 2. Definitely need a road.
I'm not going. There's no way I'm going for a plat in that bad boy. That would take me a million hours. 200
hours at least. But maybe you want to go back to Red Dead 1.
No, definitely not. Definitely not.
It's so good. It is such a fun game. What I remember, what I played in Red Dead 2, it was definitely not this much fun. And I actually think it might have been a bad idea to go to Red Dead 1 before I played Red Dead 2. But we'll see.
Yeah, I mean,
the narrative will build.
I went back to Red Dead 1 like when we did our top 35 or 33 lists or whatever. And I was enjoying it. Like it's a good point about the open world size, because I remember when it came out, I was really just adverse to anything open world. I would always kind of get overwhelmed and just be like, I'd rather play something else. And now going back to that, it was like nothing. It was really manageable. So
yeah, I'm like almost through the story and I'm doing side content and I'm like 30 hours in, maybe 25, and it's kind of a breeze. So it kind of reminds me of Bully. It's more like Bully to me than any other GTA game, because like maybe the bike and the horse are kind of similar. I don't know. And I know I've said this before, for Red Dead. Not having buildings is the best, and worrying about streets and like crowded, like just being able to take your horse wherever you want, do whatever you want. It's so liberating. Game rules. Can't wait to shit on Red Dead 2 after playing Red Dead 1. Amazing.
Okay, Huck, anything else for you?
I played just one more small thing. One of the games I mentioned before, Polimines. It's a small puzzle game. I bought it on Steam. It was on sale. I bought it, and Polymines 1 and Polymines 2. It's kind of like Minesweeper meets Sudoku, or like a nonogram game. And essentially it has, the puzzles have sort of like random layouts, mostly square, but can also have kind of like weird shapes. And they'll give you a certain number of numbers on the outsides of the rows and columns. And that's how many essentially mines are in that row. But it doesn't tell you where they are. And then you have to use that information, kind of like in a nonogram, to sort of mark which ones are mines and which ones are free, and click which ones are free. And then when you click one you think is a free space, it'll sometimes have a blank, or it'll have a number, just like Minesweeper. And then that number tells you how many mines are nearby that block. So it's sort of like Minesweeper with some additive information, but also it has gaps in its information, and you need to kind of use all the information given to decide where the mines are. So it's not just a grid like Minesweeper is. It's different shapes, and it's not all the information like a nonogram, where they give you all of the setup for the rows and every row and every column is. So it's kind of like this weird hybrid game, and it's pretty fun. The first game only has 30 puzzles, so you can kind of breeze through it pretty quickly. And it's kind of nice that it allows you to make mistakes. So if you click a mine, it'll mark it as a mine and just say you got one mistake on this. So I think the eventual goal kind of thing is to get through all the puzzles with no mistakes, but it doesn't really penalize you in any real way. You could essentially just click every square, and then eventually would say you made 40 mistakes, and then you'd be able to go on to the next puzzle. So it's an interesting take on not penalizing the player too much, and I think it's pretty good. There's no trophies or anything or achievements in the first game for doing it all like with no mistakes. So I didn't go back and complete all of them. I probably did about half of them or 2/3 with no mistakes. And so some of the later ones get pretty tricky. And so now I'm going to start Polymines 2, which or I did start Polymines 2, I should say. And it's basically the exact same game, but with more graphical flair added on. So, you click a button and now it's a little more animated when, stuff happens. But overall, the puzzles are pretty fun to do. It's kind of like how I like that No Nozzle game. Like there's nothing flashy about it. It's just, a solid game that I can play and kind of mindlessly do. So I'm enjoying it. I also picked up, what's it called? Tiny Worlds, I think, but I haven't had a chance to play it yet. And it's one of those games. Tiny Worlds 2 was in one of those. Yeah, Tiny Worlds. Tiny Worlds 2 was in one of those showcases we saw. And it's essentially like, I think they kind of show you a scene, and then you have to like find the differences. They show you two scenes, sorry, and you have to find the differences. Almost like a little, not a vignette. What's the word I'm thinking of? Like a diorama or something like that. I think that's the word.
Like it's 3D rendered, or is it a
3D rendered? I'm pretty sure it's 3D rendered. Let me make sure that's actually the name.
Just
Tiny World, no S. Wait, no, this is not it.
Yeah, I don't see that on Steam. And Polymines, just for people that are looking for it, I was like looking Poly, Poly.
Oh, Paul, yeah, it's with an I.
Polimines. Yeah, I don't know. It's Tiny Worlds.
All right, hang on. I'll come back to me. I will find it, but I got to look on my Steam account on my phone.
Polymine currently $2.99 on Steam.
Yeah, and the whole collection with Polimines 1 and 2 is, I think, is like $12 or something. Like, it's really, really affordable.
Nice.
Anyways, I'll try to find the name of that other game I was mentioning, and which I haven't played, so I don't even know why I brought it up, but I bought it in the Steam sale.
Okay, so I'll just mention one other thing. I played a bit of a game called Blood, BLUD, hashtag Blood. Sorry, there's a hashtag in front of it.
That's how you know it's cool.
Yeah, so this is I guess 2D action adventure. I mean, I had heard it described as like a cartoony Zelda, but I feel like anything that's sort of like a top-down isometric type game is described as Zelda. It's not really that Zelda-esque. There's not really any puzzles or anything. But
I get more Castle Crashers vibes.
Yeah, so it is like the
Single
animation
player.
style.
Single player, though, right?
Yeah, single player. The animation style is kind of reminds me of like Dexter's Laboratory or Powerpuff Girls, and it's like it's really well done. Like when you're attacking and stuff, it's got very exaggerated animations. It looks really cool. I mean, the downside of that is that I would say the combat doesn't always feel amazing because sometimes it's you're locked into these longer animations a little bit. But I am enjoying it. It's kind of a vampire themed game. Like you're kind of playing as this girl who's like a field hockey player at a high school. I think you're like new in town, and the town is starting to be taken over by vampires. And basically you're walking around with your field hockey stick, kicking the crap out of enemies.
Didn't the other game someone
Sweet.
just played have a field hockey player? Or was it just a hockey player? Or maybe it was in our top summer game season games. So
Yeah.
game with a hockey player. Anyway,
I found the name Tiny Lands. That's the name of it. Tiny Lands.
that
And it is
sounds-
like a comparative game. So you have like a 3D scene, you rotate it, and you have to find the difference between the two. I'll play that maybe next week. Actually talk about it.
Yeah, but
Like
I'm enjoying this game. I think it's a Humble game published by Humble, I think. But yeah,
did it just
check
come
it
out?
out. Yeah, just a couple of weeks ago.
Nice. Looks good. And is it just on Steam right now? Do you know? I'll look up a PlayStation.
I think it's on Switch as well.
It is on PlayStation as well.
Okay.
All right, cool.
This is hilarious. I had a game idea like this. It was going to be called Angry Alicia. And it was like the same thing. Not after
Yeah.
your Alicia, and it was just like, but it was hockey. And it was just going to be, it was based off of this girl I knew. That was just hilarious. But similar idea. Hilarious. I might have to pick this game up.
All right, is that all for what we played? I would assume so, but
Yeah, I was going to ask you, Frank, did you try out the new PDP Riffmaster at all?
I've not tried it yet.
Okay. I've got mine. I tried it out. This is the new Rock Band guitar, which, they were very hard to find for many years. So now somebody's actually started releasing a new one. But interesting to note that supported now in Fortnite Festival.
Oh,
And
that's now official? I knew it was
Yeah.
cool. Okay.
Yeah, no, I tried it out. Works pretty good. I mean, I was having like really annoying sync delay issues with my TV and my soundbar. Like, I don't know, man. Like, I feel like all this stuff has gotten harder to set up over the years. But yeah, no, I was having fun.
Do they have some Metallica tunes in Fortnite Festival right now, I assume?
They do, yeah.
Might have to fire it up for the first time.
It's kind of annoying. Like they have like a playlist of free songs that you can play freely, and then they have a bunch that you can buy. But I think they're like $5 each or something. Like they're more expensive than any of the Rock Band songs ever were, and they don't have bundles or anything.
Do you get them forever? I thought like the main playlist cycled all the time.
I think if you buy them, you get them forever, but otherwise you're just whatever's on the playlist. Yeah.
All right. I think that's going to do it for today's show. Thanks for listening or watching. YouTube.com/Game Junk. Discord link is on there as well. And if you want to let us know or have any ideas for episode 200, we will listen. No guarantees, But we'll see you next time. Bye bye.